If you've been in a liquidity pool for more than 2 weeks and you haven't checked your profit loss, you haven't checked your impermanent loss, or many of those other metrics, I need you to watch this video for a couple minutes. I have liquidity positions over on Project X. I have them over on Uniswap. I've used Aerodrome before and many other decentralized exchanges to provide liquidity over the past 5 years that I've been in DeFi. And the number one thing that made me upset is that when you dive into these to look at the performance, they don't show you performance. Performance is non-existent. That data does not exist here. And the reason why is because decentralized exchanges have to operate efficiently. They actually don't make as much money as you think they do unless they are at the scale that Uniswap is at. And that's because while there are a lot of fees collected, not a lot of those fees actually go back to the decentralized exchange itself because it goes to liquidity providers like you and I, which means that they don't have the funds available to build out advanced tracking dashboards for performance data on their decentralized exchange. Also, it would only apply to their decentralized exchange, meaning that even if one DEX has it, even if Uniswap were to integrate something like this, you're not going to have it on your other liquidity positions, and you're most likely using multiple platforms. But it's very easy to just simply look at this and be like, oh yeah, everything's going good. And the reason why is because maybe you deposited $10,742, right? Some random number. Well, in your mind, you're like, oh, I deposited around 10.5K. Okay, I got 9.574 right here. I got 1.1K in earnings. Okay, I'm profitable, right? But you don't know how you perform compared to just holding the market. You don't know if that's actually true performance because, of course, we can get some things mixed up. You don't know if you went out of range, right? Because this chart, to be frank, is not that good. There's a lot of things that you're overlooking by just simply having that mindset. Same thing over here on Project X. You actually see less data. It's like, oh, I started with probably about 40, 60%. Now I have 20, 80%. But again, you don't know impermanent loss. You don't know true, real APRs. You only know what they tell you. And that right there is exactly why I built Metrix Finance, because it tells you your initial assets versus how much you have now and their dollar figures. It tells you your claimed versus unclaimed earnings and how much of those you keep after impermanent loss. It actually tells you your real and true APR based on the time that you've been in this position for. You can set price alerts so that way you know before you get out of range, so you can rebalance, make adjustments to your position to ensure that you are minimizing your impermanent loss. And of course, you can see your performance compared to various different benchmarks. But let's back it up. In liquidity pools, you have two different types of profit loss. You have your dollar in, dollar out profit loss, which is basically saying, hey, I put 10,000 bucks in this pool. It's now worth, say, 9,500, but I earned 1,000 bucks. Well, when we add 9,500 to the 1,000 bucks that you earned, that's $10,500, meaning that you are at a $500 profit. That is your dollar in, dollar out profit loss. But what that does not account for, that the other profit loss does, which is called impermanent loss. Some people call it divergence loss. Other people call it opportunity cost, right? It can be referred to as that basically, because all of those are true. Is maybe your position's at 9,500 bucks, but if you just simply held your money in the initial assets, you would not have been at a $500 loss on the initial position. You would have been at, let's just say, a $200 loss on the initial position, meaning that you would have had 9,800 bucks if you were not in liquidity pool compared to 9,500. So when we do the math, 9,800 minus 9,500, that gives us 300. That's $300 of impermanent loss right there, right? But keep in mind, when we add our $1,000 to our $9,500 still, we have $10,500. Which means that we are still profiting $700 compared to if we were to hold our initial assets in the market, right? Well, the position might be down more. We have all the earnings from the position to help offset that. But that's not always the case. You need to understand these things before you actually enter in the liquidity pool. And I will say there are caveats where impermanent loss can actually be your best friend. There's caveats where a loss on your position can be your best friend. I'm going to show you an example with Ethereum as well as ENA. Now, ENA is an altcoin. It is somewhat correlated to Ethereum because it's prominent on the Ethereum ecosystem. What this chart tells us over time is it's actually slowly underperforming Ethereum. So let's go ahead and set our min price, set our max price, and we'll use minus 15% plus 15%, right? And then what we can do is we can simulate the performance over here and just see what happens whenever ENA goes to a specific price and Ethereum go to a specific price. So what I personally like to do is analyze these assets on CoinGecko. I'll look at the past month, So looking over here, you could see that we've seen some movement, and I'll do the exact same thing for ENA. So looking at Ethereum, let's just look at a period where we saw a lot of volatility. Well, right here over on April 7th, we went from $2,071 all the way up to $2,241, which means that Ethereum went up 8.21%. So we can input that over here. What happens when it goes up 8.21%, basically, right? And then we can do the exact same thing for ENA, just over the 1 month chart, and looking at the same exact time frame. You have to look at the same time frame because really what we're analyzing here is, do ENA and Ethereum actually move together? When one goes up, does the other one go up as well? So this went from 0.0802 to roughly 937. So that right there would be a 16.8% increase in price. So let's type that in over here as well. And just like that, you can see exactly how much opportunity cost we have. We have $72 of opportunity cost, which is roughly 1% of the overall position value at deposit because we're depositing 64.56. So with that being said, pay attention to the bottom right hand corner over here. It will take us a little over 6 days to cover that opportunity cost. So let's factor that in, right? When this LP yield has been going for 7 days, we are actually profiting $26 to HODL, which means we're profiting $26 after we factor in our opportunity cost as well as our earnings. The only consideration here is that move that we looked at, where we pumped 16% as well as 8%. That happened in 1 day. So we're talking about 6 days of fee generation to just simply cover 1 day of opportunity cost. That right there is the equivalent of you investing into a bad asset, it constantly losing money and saying that the fees are going to outweigh it, when in reality, you're going to lose more every day than you actually make, which is exactly why we have to analyze these things beforehand. And this is most likely why a lot of your liquidity positions are losing money if they are. You have to look at it from this lens and actually base your decisions on data as opposed to basing your decisions on vibes or emotions. Now that's what my software Metrix Finance does for you guys. We have a free version, and what I'm showing you here today is our V4 beta. It's not currently live. However, our V3 is still live, and V4 will be launching within the coming weeks. So if you guys are excited for that, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, notifications turned on. If you want me to make some more content around Metrix V4, just comment V4 below this video. I'll be happy to walk you guys through it and show you how you can use this terminal to make better data-driven decisions within your portfolio. I'll see you guys soon, and peace out.